Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to another Empowerment Climb. I'm Dr. Lacey, and you are here live with me with drlacey.com. I'm so excited to have you on this week's Empowerment Climb. I'm really super excited about this topic on today because it's something that I hold very true and I think is extremely valuable. I'm also excited to share with you a tip and technique from the classroom to the boardroom that I actually use in my own practice as an executive director with a nonprofit company here in the city. So you've got to stay tuned to the very end of the video to learn that one. But I'm glad that you're here on today. As you're coming in, do me a favor, please be sure to like and share, empower another woman that you might know, someone else who's ready to take the climb, who's ready to go to the next level, someone else who needs to be encouraged and empowered on today. So please be sure and like and share this video at this very time, this webinar, because we are Women Crushing Wednesday, and this is about to be an amazing empowerment climb. You're going to be so glad that you took the time to invest in you. And as you're coming in, also, please share with me, where are you signing in from? Are you just down the street here in Milwaukee, or are you way down the street, down south someplace, or all the way out west? I'm so excited to be able to connect with you on today. So grab your stilettos and let's go. For this week's Empowerment Climb, we are talking about the 5 steps to the power of asking for help. Now, how many of you are familiar with Steve Jobs? I mean, you have to literally be living under a rock to not know about Steve Jobs, the Apple everything, right? So not to know about him. But did you know that at the age of 12, he literally went into the phone book, granted it was a very different time at that point, and picked up the phone and he called Bill Hewlett. Name sound familiar? He's one half of the Hewlett-Packard company. He's the co-founder. And he called Hewlett because he wanted to ask him if he happened to have any spare parts to build a frequency counter. Did you catch that? He wanted to ask him if he had any spare parts to build a frequency counter. Now, if you're like me, you may not know what a frequency counter is, so I literally had to look it up. And it is an electronic instrument that is used to measure the number of pulses per second in a periodic electronic signal. Wow. So at age 12, he was looking to build this. Well, not only did Hewlett agree to give Steve Jobs this request of these, donated items, but he also offered him a summer job later that year at his company, assembling, those exact frequency counters. Wow, talk about the power of asking for help. One of the things that we have to keep in mind when we tap into the power of asking for help is to achieve your greatest goals. Sometimes all you have to do is ask. So, what are those 5 steps that will help you in asking for help? And how do they even connect to emotional intelligence? As a reminder, emotional intelligence is broken down into 2 segments: self-regulation and self-awareness. And as leaders, we are going from process to practice. We have our process and where we're still figuring it out, but then we have our practice in which we're implementing it based off of the best practice, one being emotional intelligence. So when it comes to asking others for help, step number 1 is you have to help others first. Yep, it literally goes back to the golden rule: do unto others as you'd want them to do unto you. It also connects to self-regulation. But when you help others first, you actually build a positive reputation as someone who simply helps others. In addition, in creating this reputation, it must be ongoing and sustainable. In other words, you can't just help someone today and never help someone else ever again and expect to receive help yourself. But in essence, it really has to be ongoing in how you're helping others. Step number 2, which connects to the other foundational root of EI, is self-awareness. Step number 2 is know what you want to ask. Plain and simple. You have to know what you're looking for before you go to ask someone. So think about it. Do you ever find yourself maybe daydreaming, if I only had a moment with the CEO of my company or the CFO of my company, if I only had a moment to, if I found myself in a room with Oprah, for example, but then you go blank. Well, what would I say? What would I ask? What might I do? Well, when you know what to ask, you prepare yourself in advance. You literally focus on the project at hand that you might be working on. You write down those goals in advance, which will help you to keep from going blank. You then prioritize those exact same goals because you have to imagine if this is a person who's very busy, especially if you're in corporate America, their time might be limited. And as a leader, you already know what you want to ask because not only are you focused on your project, you've written down your goals, but you prioritize those goals and you've listed them in action steps with the necessary resources. So even though you already know what you want to ask, by putting this series together, you now have become smart in your ask. Yep. Step number 3 is to be smart. So don't let poorly worded requests fall flat, but instead be smart with it. SMART is actually an acronym that stands for specific, know what you're wanting to ask, meaningful, why you need this ask, action oriented, meaning to ask for something to be done, real, be authentic, and time bound. When do you need it by? Because as leaders, we always know that we are on a schedule. It's always easier to respond to a smart ask because it's prioritized as opposed to a generalized ask in which we as the asker don't really know what we're asking for. Step number 4 is to refrain from assumptions. Yeah, it's really easy to start to make a guess or make an assumption about someone else or something. But when you do so, the act of asking for and receiving help initially demonstrates the power of asking. And when you're asking for what you need, while not prejudging someone else on what they can offer, you are actually empowering both you and them. So while this person may not be able to help you directly, you never know who they may know that can also lend a hand to you, and they become the point in that connection. All right, step number 5. Step number 5, this is our final step on the 5 steps to the power of asking for help. This step number 5 also connects to the emotional intelligence root of self-awareness. You have to create an encouraging culture. As leaders, this should be our number 1 priority, is to create an encouraging culture. And if you're an aspiring leader, you can still do your part to add to that encouraging culture. You have to make it easy for people to want to ask, and you have to be able to guide them in the help that you offer. As leaders, we set the tone, we set the norms, and we establish what the best practice is at work because we are basing it off of the research. We are also watching how others give and get help, which only reinforces the norms and reinforces the best practices and tone set for you there in your offices. And when you continue to ask for help and receive for help, creating that culture, it really creates a feeling of psychological safety. In other words, this is a safe place for me to be able to ask for help. And if I don't know the answers, it's okay because it's also safe for me to be able to ask. So as a reminder, the top 5 steps for the power of asking for help include help others first, know what you want to ask, be smart, refrain from assumptions, and create an encouraging culture. But what does the research say? Well, according to Frank Flynn, who was from Stanford University's Graduate School of Business, he warns us against underestimating the willingness of others to help in a common area. In addition, Wayne Baker of the University of Michigan School of Business, he gives a link between management practices, so all of us leaders out here, and the generalized reciprocity. In other words, helping is passed forward and then received. It's reciprocal. So it's given and then it's received. And both of them connect to the power of the ask. So if you're ready from the classroom to the boardroom, how can you turn around and apply the power of the ask today? Well, one thing that you can do is you can actually focus on connecting it to a culture that is embracing and not abrasive. Yep. We have power as leaders to help in establishing a culture that is embracing and not abrasive. Wow. Do you think that's something that you can practice on today? Do you think that's something that you can build upon? Well, another thing that we can do from the classroom to the boardroom all the way on today is we can ensure with our staff induction. Now, here is the tip that I use in my offices almost every single time that we have a new staff person to join us in the organization. It is both powerful and it is a way that's simply done that you can incorporate your entire team. And that's through your induction process. The induction process is simply broken down into 3 easy steps. Step number 1 is when you ask other members of your team to share why they love working for your organization, working with their organization. Why do they love being there? What empowers them to want to come to work every single day? Step number 2 is you ask members of the staff to respond and share with the new inductee the best advice to be successful in this organization. Do you see a pattern here? It's not all coming from you as the leader, but it's allowing you to create that culture to permeate and allow other members of your team to share this powerful advice. And step number 3 is that everyone offers how they are willing to help this new inductee to be successful. Wow. Those are simple things that we can do from the classroom to the boardroom on today to help us with the power of asking for help. So one final recap before we go to our point to practice today. Again, the 5 steps to the power of asking for help include helping others first, know what you want to ask, be smart, refrain from assumptions, and create an encouraging culture. These are all things that I think that you can do as an empowered leader on today. Here is your point to practice, and it connects back to our introduction today as it's from our friend Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. And he says, most people never ask. That's what separates the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. Well, as empowered leaders, we are not most people, but we are going to be the ones that not only dream it, but do it. Wow, did this video encourage you today? Did this webinar help you today? Are you ready to crush your Wednesday? If so, please be sure and share this with another person who would need this empowerment, who is looking to go to the next level, who's looking to grow and glow. If you haven't done so, I'd like to invite you to follow me on social media via Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, and you can always find me right here every Wednesday at 6:30 a.m. Central Standard Time as we begin the empowerment climb. And if you haven't done so, be sure and encourage someone else today. Next week's topic, so that you can already save the date and pre-register for this free Women Crushing Wednesday webinar, is what's on your nightstand. Yep, I'm coming in. What's on your nightstand? 3 reasons why leaders must be readers. Wow, I am so looking forward to connecting with you throughout the rest of this week. Be sure and look for me again on social media as I'll be giving additional tips on how that you can tap into the power of the ask. Again, the best conversations start offline, but this is simply an invitation for you to join me. As always, from process to practice, grab your stilettos and let's go.